This is the 2021 National Firewood Workshop. We're focusing on the business side of the firewood industry. We have Jonathan Kays of the Western Maryland Research and Education Center located near Hagerstown, Maryland. He is a forestry extension specialist, and welcome, Jonathan.
Welcome. Yeah, good to be here.
Yeah, one of the important aspects of figuring out the firewood business is the financial side, and Jonathan has put together a publication to help people. Can you tell us about it, Jonathan?
Sure, and I guess I'll give a little disclaimer is that I have never actually had a firewood business, but I've burned firewood for 40, 50 years and have bought a lot of firewood. I certainly have cut a lot of firewood, and I've worked with a number of businesses as an extension forester. And what I was interested in this because we've done some other work with firewood. I did a few of these other presentations, and I was curious. Just I've done a number of work over the years on enterprises, natural resource income enterprises, and kind of done a number of things with various enterprises, and they're all on our website. But I hadn't anything on firewood, and the basic idea is to have just a couple of page fact sheet, and then also a downloadable Excel file with a sample budget that anybody can actually download, and then they can adapt and use their numbers. So that's what I'm just going to describe briefly here, and also give credit to what I got here really came originally from Peter Smallage, who's an extension forester for Cornell University, and actually had a firewood business. Now this came from his own experience, but we adapted it to Maryland as well, and did some other things that I thought were relevant. So with that, I'm just going to share my screen. I'll show you where it is now. Our website is at go.umd.edu/woodland, and so go.umd.edu/woodland, and you'll find if you go down the page, a thing for publications. If you look at enterprise ventures, you'll find that, along with a lot of other things, everything from mushrooms to ginseng to vacation cabins to you name it. So let me just share this right now, and here we are. So what I did is I pulled up this, I'm gonna move my camera over here just for a minute so I don't, it's always weird when you look at these types of things and people's eyes are going in different directions. But what you see here, and you can see that, correct, Larry? Yeah, is a fact sheet we have on enterprise budget for a family firewood business. And this just makes, like many of these budgets, you have to make a lot of assumptions. But, it's amazing having worked with a lot of small enterprises when enterprise budget's really essential, because to fill out various parts of that budget, you have to get more information, and you have to really find out, am I going to really make any money at this? And it's because a lot of people start as hobbies, and so this really gives you a lot more information. And if you can, I'm not going to read through the whole thing. You can copy this down later, but it takes a lot of work to cut firewood. And so this information sheet, as you can see my cursor here, provides an enterprise budget for a small business that will buy, cut, and split logs and deliver in cord quantities. So, again, it'd be a totally separate budget if you were making little campfire packs, which are quite popular and actually can be quite profitable, for campgrounds and other things. $5, $6 bundles of woods. What I call them is for the bear skin and white wine crowd. In many cases, and they sell them for folks sitting by the fireplace at night. You want to bundle wood, but of course there's a lot of places with camps and stuff like that where there's opportunities to market that. So I'll show you in the budget in a minute, and it's as an Excel file, but it's actually on the fact sheet as well. And if you notice in the second column here, we've made some assumptions that this person is buying logs by the truckload, okay, and selling. And they have a commercial log splitter, which is going to be a little bigger than not that they couldn't do with a 23-ton unit like you typically buy, but probably a bigger unit would be a lot faster, of course. Selling it for $2 a cord, plus maybe a delivery charge. So included in the budget as well as the things that many entrepreneurs don't consider is like depreciation. That log splitter has a limited life as well as other things. Well, you need to put money aside to replace that thing. So when you start including those expenses, it really shows whether the business is profitable and sustainable. So in the example we have here, you're going to see there's a profit per cord of about $48 and maybe $337 on a 7-cord truck. Is that enough? I don't know. Here in this example, if I go down the page, you'll see that one of the major expenses is the wood, of course, and assuming about $650 for a load, which is about what, 7-9 cords, somewhere in there, maybe. And of course, if you are a logger and you're an arborist or whatever, you may have access to cheaper wood. Realizing, of course, that many times if you are working with arborists, especially, make sure you know the wood you're getting, that it's actually decent firewood in many cases. Not all species are. So, and again, like I said here, marketing wood in smaller quantities or even bundles allows you to charge more and get more value. I remember actually from Harry, from the 2016 National Firewood Workshop we had in Western Maryland. There was an outfit there, I think from out Midwest somewhere, but they figured out that they were making, I don't know, it was an enormous amount of money on a cord of wood. It's many thousands of dollars selling it, and in little bundles of wood. But that's not what we're talking about here. So let's go to the budget. And so we're talking here, basically we have income and expenses. And so again, what's the delivery charge for the 7 cords of wood we're getting? It's $200 a cord. That's $1,400. That's the income. That's what we're selling it for. And then delivery charges. And then we get into our expenses. We're paying $650 for the loads, like I said, blocking it up, into pieces, into like 18-inch pieces or something, and then splitting it, trying to figure out how many cords you can do in an hour. And this is something you can figure out, but you can plug this into a budget so you start getting an idea of what time is worth, and maybe what you can even pay for labor, the delivery labor, fuel and oil for the chainsaw and the splitter, repairs, everything breaks, right? And then transportation mileage, this is putting in here a number of, if you see down here, about 50 cents a mile, which is a little below what the actual federal tax rate is, but it's a good number to use probably. If you want to use that, you can use something else. And then the cost of protective gear as well, and depreciation on that. And you're trying to figure this out per cord, which is, can be a little dicey, but then very much the depreciation on the splitter as well, realizing how long that's going to last, and how many cords you're going to cut. And for each of these issues, and for each of these factors, you can see there's actually a note with the assumptions that are being made. So, $20 for deliveries under 10 miles, $1 per mile over that. Number 5, blocking or cutting logs to length for splitting. You're assuming 2 hours per cord to cut a cord to split it. Maybe it doesn't take that long. How long does it take to load and transport and unload the wood per cord? The fuel, normal maintenance repairs, the cost per the truck. So, and again, there is a little separate item here for the chainsaw and the splitter depreciation. How long, how many cords you're going to get out of a lifetime. The point is that when you can put all these numbers together, the income, add in your total expenses, and then this is for this budget, and you can get a profit, basically profit per cord and profit per triaxle. And I'm not going to go into all the calculations that were done this, but actually when I do these with a farm management specialist we have who's really good with figuring out depreciation on these things, and how to add these expenses in. So just to say that in this particular example, for each cord of wood, you were making about $48. Okay, and per triaxle load, about $337. So that's, but again, what's included in that is depreciation for your equipment and everything else. Is that enough? I mean, I can't tell you that, but at least you can start to figure out the numbers and whether it makes sense. So, because how many cords are you going to sell? How many could you realistically do in a day? Things like that. So this is the actual fact sheet, but what we did again is you can also download as an Excel file. And for those of you who are familiar with Excel, And let me see if I can increase the size of that. Yeah. So the point of this is these numbers are all put in there so that you can add your own numbers. Okay, you can figure out, for example, how many delivered woods are on a truck. Maybe you have a bigger truck, so you can make this 8. All right, and that's going to change everything, right? All of a sudden, that goes 200. That's $1,600. So. And that's the beauty of this enterprise budget that's in Excel, is that you can change these numbers around. I'm not doing truckloads. Maybe I find out that my delivery charge is going to be not $30. It's going to be, on average, it's going to be less. We go down to these numbers that we assumed. For example, logs was, what my cost was for expenses per truckload of logs. Well, maybe I'm getting a better deal. Maybe I can get them for $500. All of a sudden, instead of making $48 on a cord per wood, I'm making almost $70. Okay, and that type of thing. So I'm changing those numbers around, and it's giving me an idea of profitability kind of at my fingertips. So I'm going to change it back to what it was before. Again, blocking labor. This is the time it takes to block a cord into. I think that's 5 hours. I'm trying to remember my own numbers here. Oh, that's for a truckload. Okay, so a truckload to cut the blocks, the logs into, like 18-inch pieces, for example. Enough of those for a truckload of wood, okay, which is 7 cords in my case that I have. It's going to take me 5 hours. That's my assumption. And again, if I go out there, I can maybe find out that number is going to be different. Splitting labor, okay, the labor it takes to do all this is 14 hours per truckload. So again, maybe I find out it only takes 12 hours. And all of a sudden I'm making more money, of course, instead of, because it's less labor involved. Delivery labor, repairs, maybe I find out, repairs and things like that, some of that comes from experience, right? You're going to know, general, how much are you spending on repairs with chainsaws and things like that. And depreciation on my equipment, which comes from down below here, okay? For example, chainsaw protective clothing, the cost I'm paying for a chainsaw and protective clothing, $600. Yeah, what's the lifetime of that? Okay, it's 500 cords. So the cost per cord, that's a number that I can plug into an enterprise budget. And again, what we have down here really at the bottom, oh, I'm sorry, before I go there, I'll look at splitter as well, splitter depreciation. And that's, I'm saying the depreciation, I'm saying I paid $2,000 for it, and it's going to do 500 cords of wood. And when I put these numbers in here, what it's doing is it's actually putting those numbers up into here, okay? That $1.20 that came from below per cord of wood is actually coming in from the bottom. So for example, so if this says it's the splitter depreciation is $4. If I go down to the bottom here, that's where that $4 is the cost per cord. But if I change that number and say I got, I'm spending $2,500, it's all of a sudden going to be $5 per cord. So that's going to affect my profitability. But the good thing again about this enterprise budget, it's in Excel, is it makes all those adjustments in the budget. So you can mess around with the actual Excel file that you download, that you see right here, or down at the bottom is actually just a blank budget. So you can fill in your own numbers, either way. So for your business. So that's it, So I think the good thing about these budgets is that I'm going to reduce the size of that a little bit, is that you can see all the numbers that you need. I'm going to go a little lower so you can see the bottom part. because here's the depreciation part for the chainsaw and the splitter. And those are the numbers that are incorporated up into 15 and 16. So and it's a simple way to figure out, you start plugging these numbers in and you find out that you're making, $10 on a cord of wood. You better look into your business model a little bit. You start, because I've done a lot of work with other businesses in the past, and it's amazing how many people have never done an enterprise budget. And maybe when I sit down with them, they find out that, wow, I'm not making any money at this, but maybe they just enjoy it. I don't know. It's sometimes these things are hobbies, but cutting wood is hard work. So want to make sure that you're getting money, or you're not charging enough. Maybe $200, a cord is just not enough. Or selling individual cords is not enough. You're looking for multi-cord deliveries. So I think that's about what I got. Harry, I'm not sure if you have any questions or.
Yeah, I wanted to do this one example here, and just if you want to leave your worksheet there and maybe blow it up a little bit, I'm going to ask a really simple question here, John, the firewood guy. Your best buddy comes by and says, John, old buddy, old pal, that $200, give me a break. I'll pay you $180. Now look at your bottom number now with 200.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me make it a little smaller so you can see the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So right now you're at $200 a cord. You're making $48 a cord. Okay.
Let's take that 200 and make it 180 and see what happens to you.
Ooh. All of a sudden you're making $28. You're making half of what you did. Yeah, and that's the interesting thing. And I think you know this. When you just take off a couple of dollars, a lot of times that last $10, $20 is your profit. So everybody does it a different way, but if you're going to sell the wood for $200, sell it for $200 and stick to your guns. Because actually what happens now, if you sell it for 180, you're making $28 a cord. And it's like, well, that's not worth it for all the effort it took to cut a cord of wood. So and that's where it comes into business practice, right? Make sure.
Yeah. Well, what the point is that that $20 divided by 48 is hold on here. I mean, you almost cut your profit in half.
That's what I'm saying.
10%. It's leveraged. It's the old break-even curve. So this is a very good thing for everybody to look with, play with. You can do it on the spreadsheet. You can do it with a hand calculator. You can do it in your head. But old John, you better get your $200 back up there, boy. You don't want to be working for $28 a cord, do you?
Well, the other thing is, I put time into producing a premium product. Okay. It's all oak, it's all good quality. I give good customer service. I do the extra mile. So I'm going to charge $220. People are willing to pay me more, $220. All of a sudden I'm making $68. So I've actually increased my profitability by 50%. So that's the way you got to look at it too.
Well, maybe when you reach your retirement years, you'll be Mr. Firewood of Western Maryland.
I'm not. Well, this is a young man's game, right? Unless you have highly mechanized equipment. This is, this is using a commercial splitter. I mean, when you get into having a commercial, what do you call it? Processor.
Yeah.
It's a totally different budget, right? But
well, it is, but you still, it's the same process. You put in all the revenues, all the expenses, and see what flashes up.
Yeah, you would certainly want to depreciation on the equipment and all that would be critical, and making sure you're actually using the equipment. So this doesn't really get into how many cords you're selling, right?
This is based on that you can do this in the time. This is, the per cord. Right. Look at it. There's different ways to look at it. The P&L is the best, but this is a good way too.
But you're also getting paid for your labor here, for the cutting and the splitting. So you hire outside labor, that's labor that you're paying for. So is $15, or, the hourly cost of what that is. I have to figure out what that is. Can you get someone to do that, whatever? So that's a whole different.
Well, take it back to the main screen. You want to unshare this?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Let's go back here.
Yeah, we're finished now.
I think
Well,
we're
I think
finished.
you did a wonderful job. You've got the website is going to be listed here when I do the video for our June workshop, and hopefully people can follow up with you. And thanks very much for working on this for us.
Okay. Have a great day.
Thanks a lot, John. Bye-bye.
Bye.